So I want to welcome you to Oceanside Library, Poetry Near and Afar. Um, we have two fabulous speakers tonight. We have from New York, we have Valerie M. Griggs, Valerie. And from Virginia, we have Sally Toner. Going to be a fun, great night. I leave it to your sensibilities, whether you mute or don't. I don't do the mute all button. It'd be kind of cool if everybody was muted, and after the feature's done, we all unmute and woohoo, and, the applause, and then mute again. And then after the features read, we will have a one poem open mic. As Tony says, not epic. The technical dictionary version would be like 2 to 3 minutes or 3 or 4 haiku, because we want to make sure that everybody gets to read and gets to sleep, because we have some people in other time zones here, which is super cool too. Okay, so thank you all for coming. Thank you, Oceanside Library. Thank you, Tony Iovino, for entrusting me with the helm. And so the bios for the features are in the invite that you got. So we don't read the bio, so we give the features more time to read. And so virtually, let's welcome our first feature, Valerie M. Griggs.
Thank you, Judy. It's so nice to see everybody here. This is a great series that Tony has started, and I guess this is the second in the series, and I'm really proud to be part of this evening. So I'll be reading from my book, my first published book, Listen and Leap, and this was published by Words with Wings Press. J.R. Turek, of course, great editor, and Peter Dugan, the layout, beautiful artwork. And this collection covers poems spanning from 1985 to 2020. And they've come together, this group is together around the idea of the imagination being alive to life, and poetry coming from that. The book has 3 sections based on the title Listen and Leap, which is the invitation for the imagination. There's Listen and Leap into, Listen and Leap over, Listen and Leap through. So the first poem is from the Listen and Leap into section, and this is called Rainbow. An apparition at first, a wink in the sky, something not to trust to the eyes, like a unicorn. As I rounded the curve in the road, it made itself be seen, streaming from the clouds, towering above trees, as visible as love, pale yet brilliant. An echo of a glow against the just rain sky, a seraph straddling the highway. I gazed at it as I drove, one eye on the road, as if listening to a language I used to know. The refraction of light drowned out engines and steel. There it stood, a spectral advocate, silently beseeching on behalf of the disappointment worn. The steadfast finally scorched, then peeled, and for us all, out of hope, out of hand, yet reaching. The second poem, also from the section, is called Spider Time. I used to really have a fear of spiders, couldn't stand them, and of course we had a garage full of them. So I learned to live with them by videotaping them. But anyway, Spider Time. An orange orb spider spins her 3-foot web with a silky thread, and I feel time twine around me. No line between then and now. I am suspended before a perfect design, nearly invisible, intricate, symmetrical, catching anything, even me, in an unbreakable hold. And this is the last I'll read from the section. At the soup kitchen, darkness gets all over everything. Sticky, smudging. Night pressing in, pushing down, weighs like a regret. The moon casts shadows that crimp the heart. Balancing moonlight on her apron, eyes smiling into the longing. The fallen woman wears the Milky Way as she ladles cooked charity, bowl after bowl, for the homeless neighbors. The middle section, thank you, the middle section is called Listen and Leap Over. I'm sure everyone is tired of passwords and codes. This poem is called Security Check, First Pet. I was shocked it stayed so long. Day after day at my heels, its mouth open the same way all the time, then growing wide as deep. Its minimalistic whining repeated itself out of my hearing. I knew it was there, but couldn't feed it. It's panting in my shadow, waiting for the right morsel to fall, fill its longing mouth. I don't know what I named it, or where it ended up. But some nights, I think I'm in its belly. Some way round it. Pay attention to feeling uncomfortable, accustomed to not fitting in. In such craftiness is necessary to draw form from stone. Don't be fooled by women who run with the wolves, or blindsided by father-wounded men. There are too many motherless psyches and men without chests. What nourishes the soul, that's the game. Ravens, distant drums, a veil, any of those will do. She's waiting behind the lines. It will take being outlandish to live as a hero, as yourself. This poem is called Vigil, and this was a winner in one of the PPA contests. I think maybe 2019, the year before the world disappeared. Vigil. Calliope watches me wash threadbare clothes in a drying river. I feel a bony shoulder at my side and resist. Shake it off. I'm way past leaning. The wet clothes are helpless. The river, silent as a mirror, waits for a face. Nothing weighs more than the emptiness, because I'm not single-hearted enough to bear the freedom. Wave after wave of sky with no sign of hand or smile to mark my course. Hope drops off. I run for the dream's opening. Doubt fires my clay heart. The muse cuts away clothes burned into my skin to clean and cool my disordered passions. She gives me stillness. A tender sharpness suspends me. She extracts the deep splinter from my eye. I wait, stung and itching. With strong fingers she massages the broken place, leaving me healed but sore. Inspiration wells up behind my heart, under my throat, and I try to put my hands on it, but they're cut from river rocks, bruised from reaching for the words. And this is the final poem in this section. And this is called Areopagus. Experts equivocating over data. Scientists swearing orthodoxy. And the non-essential unequivocally dismissed. Heart Island. Anonymity. The elderly cut off, undefended, endangered. Those who were going to die anyway. A prejudiced virus. Mask myths, anecdotal antidotes. Such strange language for a pandemic, stranger than the leper's bells. There's a sickness in our speech, deadlier than the latest strain of coronavirus. In the final section of the book, the third section, listen and leap through. Resistance. I'm hollowed out by the psyche keepers, the body watchers, and I still don't quite fit into the furrows plowed by the earth managers. Their techno-myths and surveillance stunts have only sharpened my eyes. I can pick up their existential codes and pretend I am too vain and shallow, like a postmodern pimpernel, to notice their machinations. It's the power of the child who's being deliberately distracted, even lured away from the bright, shiny, priceless thing. I will get my hands on it and put it in my mouth before they can stop me. Asking for directions at the city's gate. I find myself here at your citadel, ready for your mysteries. Do you celebrate survival or the lamb napping with the wolf? Do you adore selfies or eyewitness accounts? Why, yes, my dress was sewn by the dead, after the pattern of Kalevala jewelry made with everlasting strands. Last night, there was a melody in the hills that rattled the moon's silver plates. Did you hear it? I tried to catch it in the body of my guitar, but the notes were too old and kind, like my grandfather's eyes. A chasm has been growing since we stopped telling stories by the fire. Would you teach me your language? I'd like to tell you a beautiful hope. Hints. Strange, one-syllable words. Hints. Chimes tell of wind, as moon tells of sun, and bread whispers hunger. Albatross points to land, loneliness to love and grief. Missing tells of wholeness, while desires tell of purpose. Fear tells of courage. Seasons speak of time. Wordlessness speaks volumes, and streams speak of dreams beneath waking. Resistance tells of freedom. Anger of injustice, while mockery reveals violence. Smoke and mirrors are tells for hypocrisy, and censorship tells us there's something to hear. This book is dedicated to my brother Michael, who passed away in June of 2021. And he was in an experimental treatment program. Postcard from the program. I'm sorry I haven't written or called more often, but I'm on my third resurrection, and I don't have my sea legs yet. My appetite is heron-like lately. I've been meeting a Norse fisherman in sleep who coaxes me to cast my net where he points. I haven't yet. You know how long it takes for me to choose? Even my lists have lists. We have the illusion of choosing menus, meetings, floral prints, flat screens, and porches. You point to a heartbreaking, eerie normalcy. Say hi to all. Tell them my lines are tight. And the last poem for the reading, the last poem from Listen and Leap Through. 0. I lose track of what I lose from time to time. I lose track of what I lose, and the problem is the space. Something missing on the tip of my tongue at the back of my mind. I lose track of what I lose now and then, and the problem is like this. I want to mark the space. Set a stone, place a cross, a wreath, like they do on the parkways where something disappeared. I want a placeholder so the hope of restoration doesn't fade away. I want to keep track of what I lose. And because 0 is an amount, I use it as proof of loss. Not as emptiness or nothing, but a sign of what is to come back. Thank you.
Oh, why don't we all unmute and a round of applause for Valerie M. Griggs.
Nice set, Val.
Beautiful.
Valerie, you should check the chat. You know, you can save the chat, folks. There's 3 little dots to the extreme right. You click on that, you can save the chat. But Valerie, there's some really terrific comments
Okay.
in the chat for you. And so thank you very much, Valerie.
She even brought a whole writing center with her too.
Just your writing
Is
center.
that what it says?
Valerie Griggs
Valerie's writing center.
You know, this work at home crossover into your life is getting too much.
You know what? If you're at your desk, it's a writing center. That works for me.
Ah, always the optimist. I love it, Judy. I love it. Really.
Thank you, Valerie. It's so wonderful to actually hear these poems after spending so much time with them. It just adds so much to them. And so thank you for featuring. Very cool. And now I'm going to remind everybody to mute, and we are going to welcome now from Virginia our Afar feature, Sally Toner.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Valerie. That was just fantastic. Wow. I'm honored to be featuring here again. It's a fabulous series. And hello from Ruston, Virginia, and Northern Virginia. So not quite as cold as you guys are, maybe, but pretty chilly. And that's my poems are about kind of about November and everything that it encompasses. I'm one of these weirdos who likes November. You know, my husband calls it the most liminal month, which, yeah, that's probably true. But it's a month of transition. It's also Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday, no pressure of gifts, and it's all about food and family and football. So that makes me happy. It's also, but it is really, you know, it goes from being that glorious fall to that gauze, you know, in the sky, and there's trees and the cold. So I'm actually, the first two poems I'm going to read are from my collection, which is called Anansi and Friends. So interesting that you talk, Valerie, about being terrified of spiders, because that's where I got my title. But the first poem is actually called Slaughter Beach. So we're going to end the summer. We're going to start there. And Slaughter Beach is about, so horseshoe crabs spawn really on one place on the East Coast. And I don't know if anyone's ever seen where they spawn in Delaware, but it's really wild how they come ashore. And that's where I got the first poem. Slaughter Beach. The water turns tar dark. They lumber and lull 1,000 mounds of spiky mud. Did their tails hold poison? I never knew in childhood, seeing their crackling shells discarded. Then I saw the ocean, up the coast and up the years, a home to ancient alien lovers. Their claws are zippered. The wife lays eggs in a drying bed while her husband twists in counterpoint. Crabs are black sand thoughts, two-part inventions. Some go home, retreating with the waves or nudged upright by my flip-flop. Still, the ones on shore, deposited too far for recovery, they haunt me in the golden morning. Now I walk, silent along the scene, brined pile of failed rescue. Their legs stiffen in the air, and the stench makes me turn to take a picture of a heron on glass instead. Thank you. So then we go to more of the anticipation of winter, which does also come with November. And this one was the first poem in my book, called Discovery. The bones were scattered like jacks across the grass and leaves. They were crime half buried, grime covered in gray. My father brought me here to hunt for Christmas trees in the ice silent air, disturbed only by our steps that sounded like the crunch of fallen death, or the passing of a single engine plane Cessna pilots love to fly, the lonely drone that won't leave me turbulence free. So I'm going to move again. This is another winter poem, but we're getting into some family stuff here. So I'm going to try to move it so I can see and read. And this is one for my husband. That it's funny. We're going on our 29th anniversary at the end of December, middle of December, actually. And this was written on our 15th, so almost like halfway through the marriage that we've had so far. It's called Crystal Anniversary. The sycamores are ashen ghosts. We crack a rippled diamond of ice, the wind a knife in December air. Saplings rise in winter, feathers breaking earth as mothers cover. It's a gamble. Stolen sun fights frost, but few discarded seeds will shield their babes in 15 years. At the cabin, a ladybug red good luck invades. I upright her, save her for today. Then I squash a wasp, sever him in two with my boot, and sweep his sting beneath the cracks of wood. My jeans a tombstone, rumpled blue on top of him. He freezes while we warm under the quilt for today. Thanks. And now I kind of want to go to a little more about family. This one is actually my grandmother, and this gets into some prose poems. A lot of what I've been writing recently would be prose poems and spoken word. It's a little more recent work. And this one, so family obviously is a big part of this time of year, and in positive and maybe not so positive ways sometimes. And this is called Mirrors, which again came up in Valerie's work. So we'll talk about mirrors. Mirrors starts with an epigraph. Now, women forget all those things they don't want to remember, and remember everything they don't want to forget. The dream is the truth. Then they act and do things accordingly. That's Ornell Hurston from Their Eyes Are Watching God. They didn't cover the mirrors when Mima died. Mirrors she'd Windex one by one, every one. She'd hum as she cleaned, sing without words, vibrato pitch perfect. Patsy Cline from the back of her throat. Papa teased, called her vain, but said every man in town was after her ass. He'd giggle at this. A man smooth enough in his skin to giggle, smooth enough on the dance floor to keep up, which is, I knew, why she chose him. Mirrors weren't vanity, but insurance. No rip in her clothes, no hair out of place, and hers was wispy and wild. Never left the house without fixing her face, the invented truth of Mary Kay. Her invented truth covered darker spots. Her mirrors weren't vanity, but protection. Protection from a youth dressed in burlap sacks, from the family hooch. 2 siblings run over on the same set of railroad tracks, protection from her own rage. When her sister teased once too much, she shattered her kidney with a 2x4, then named her daughter after her. Mirrors were protection. From the downward looks in school, at work, from the cleaner, wealthier, better schooled, but not as smart as she. Her nickname was Baby, the youngest of 9 who lived, she'd say, before telling me whenever I asked to leave the past in the past. She changed Virl, V-I-R-L-E, to V-Y-R-L because the spelling looked fancier. Mary Kay for her moniker. She didn't believe in what she couldn't see for herself. In Alzheimer's grip, she screamed, if there is a God, he can kiss my Tennessee ass. I wonder, does heaven have mirrors? Did she bring the Windex along? With the ferocity of her love, did she settle it all and teach God how to hum? And kind of along that theme in terms of gratitude, I want to read a poem that this actually came from, I don't know, being really irritated with my daughter's privilege one time. and she basically was talking about wanting, we were walking around in the Lower East Side of New York, and she was talking about wanting to own her own condo one day. And I was just listening to her and wrote this at a Starbucks, like on a napkin, one of these cases, in about 5 minutes. But a piece of spoken word called If I Were Really, Really Rich. If I were really, really rich, I'd buy a condo in every major city in the world for any mood that strikes. New York, Paris, London, Dubai. I suppose I'd leave space for family. If I were really, really rich, I'd learn to surf, learn to chase storms and shred wave upon wave. I'd curl my dollar bills like conchs to place on some glass table. If I were really, really rich, I'd crack that glass ceiling with a sledgehammer, shatter all those assholes who made me feel small, smash them to rubble, then to pebbles to crush with combat boots. If I were really, really rich, you'd dig my righteousness, raising money to net the worth of more and more and more. If I were really, really rich, I'd buy a new frame for the cross stitch in Mom's living room when life gives you lemons, and then I'd go to that Greek restaurant with lemons on the table whenever I want. If I were really, really rich, I'd walk the aisle of the grocery store not needing to put back the extra can of peas, the bag of diapers. I wouldn't be the reason they lock the formula behind the tougher glass. If I were really, really rich, I would sing instead of smell, be gold instead of lead, be seen and heard even by the really, really rich. So maybe I'll take, well, I don't know. I think I'll move and I'll come back to the kids, but talking about gratitude and maybe a little bit of darkness. So I recently, Skinny Pop is the devil, let me just say, and I cracked a tooth and had to have it extracted. And if anyone's ever had that experience, it's like horrific. And I was also rereading Capote's in Cold Blood. So this is sort of what I came up with there. Capote gets a tooth pulled. It's his response, a response to In Cold Blood. He moans in the chair at the mercy of another. The doctor pokes around with something sharp in the dark of his mouth. The incisor seemed innocent enough, pushed the baby tooth out right on cue, did it steadily chewing while nobody noticed a growing sensitivity. The metal, it is cold. It hits in just the right spot, a bullet to the nerve. Capote will spit red. There will be empty spaces. Fuck, he screams when they tell him it has to come out, followed by a soft excuse me. He's not raised to speak like that in polite company. It's a technique I learned years ago, the dentist says as he hammers harder against the inside of Capote's skull. Capote tastes the metal of blood on his tongue until it goes numb, and another whack. It'll all be over soon. Doesn't everything, everyone have a cracking point? Capote wonders if art makes the difference. There's a painting on the wall, threads of blue, red, and yellow spreading. It's either a man of war or the innards of a monster they are prying from inside him. Either way, it'll ache and burn and scar that gaping hole they've tried to sew so tight. For weeks, he'll hunger strike, mourning that piece of bone. So sick of chicken noodle soup, he'll throw it against the wall. There are different stains on different walls, flesh that's torn in wars, abroad, or in a farmhouse down the road. It's all as random as a cherry pit that hits the tooth in the very right spot. It's metal, and blood, and screams, but no excuse me. Maybe he is Merlin, traveling backwards in time from a plague we never imagined when someone wrote a sentence he remembers now. Darkness isn't the absence of light, it's the presence of ink, the stuff from which letters and words and stories are made. Maybe art makes a difference. Capote's words bear witness to the hurt. It'll all be over soon. And yeah, that one quote is from This Brilliant Darkness by Book of Strangers by Jeff Charlotte, which was written in 2020. Thank you. Okay. Well, let's go back maybe to the kids and something a little sweeter and more grateful. And so this is it's called Tulip Art. And this was one that I wrote for my oldest little piece of spoken word. When mama bears get brazen, they can break down doors. My baby wore a rose pink dress, color to match on her quivering lips. She stood on the curb in front of the school in tears, looking lovely as I've ever seen. And all I wanted to do as I pulled up to rescue her in my pitiful way is to take that skinny little shit who made her feel this way and snap him in half like a twig. We rode home quiet for a while. And then after every bit of atmosphere, with each shuddering of her breath and mine, I began to speak. Sweet girl, I'll tell a tale. It might not make you feel better now, but maybe you'll remember when this comes again. And I'm so sorry, baby, but it will. So here my story goes. As a child, I grew tulips in my ledger while the nuns taught the letters of Paul. Love is patient, love is kind, but baby, the kind of love I felt was often not the kind that gave me patience. So I went to a bag of colors hidden in my lap and filled the petals in. One by one, they spilled on words like my tulip heart. You see, sweetheart, loss has many hues. 12, 64, 120, always more, years added when pages in our book are torn. Baby, you may be torn, but you're not broken. We keep sketching, adding to each corner one cathedral built upon another. There's a checkerboard of blood and fire, brick, Madrid, burnt sienna, vivid tangerine. Then, my darling one, there are the tones that cool to ice, cerulean scarlet, beautiful, purple mountains, majesty, plum, and bittersweet. Then sometimes sweets, parts of flowers feed us, wild strawberry, jazzberry jam, macaroni and cheese. All of these are flavors filling tulip hearts. Baby, you may be torn, but you're not broken. We keep going, adding to each corner. One cathedral rises from another. When one book is done, we switch it for another. Take the blade, sharpen shades, paint on. You see, my love, we fill the leaves left empty. We won't erase mistakes. Each heartbreak only adds its color more to corners. Each new cathedral rises higher than the rubble of another. We turned the corner to our street, parked, sat for a while, and she finally smiled and said, "Thank you, Mom." I held her for a time, and then with each shuddering of her breath and mine, we prepared to draw again more julep hearts. Okay, I think I've got time like 3 more short ones maybe. This one is for, I kind of have to cover both kids. You read one for one, you got to read one for the other, even though neither one is here, they know. So this one is another prose poem called From Uma. And it starts with an epigraph from a song by Japanese Breakfast. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the band, but it's a good one. And she just wrote a memoir called Crying in H Mart. And that's kind of, I'd read that, it gave me this thought. You can't watch me from the banks, then turn to say you're swimming too. This is from In Heaven by Japanese Breakfast. I hear the thump of the bass drum, the angel singing above the psychopomp din, then the speaker turned up. You terrify me. And your zebra-striped high-cut bikini, you with your perfect healthy body, you stand on top of the roof in San Diego, pocket desert brush, you clasp hands with your roommate, then you leap into a swimming pool 10 feet below. It is her Insta story, not yours. And if I text you what I saw, you might tell her to block, unfriend, unfollow me. It wasn't that high, your father says, so I wait. The phone stays silent for a couple of hours, so I figured you didn't paralyze yourself, and I finally fall asleep. You've said that lately you're scared of roller coasters. When you were small, we were thrill ride buddies. We thrashed every one, me just a little scared, you spreading your arms, laughing skyward. I was the one with phobia of stationary heights on that mountain in Maine. When you were small, you crossed back over the ledge, coached me, wobbly kneed and sobbing along the cliff, telling me to spread my arms wide across the stone, not to look down, scuttle 1 foot at a time. Little over a year later, your freshman year in high school, I had to tell you I was sick. You did not look down. You stared straight ahead, a tear in each eye, and said nothing. Today, I'm terrified of you and your roommate doing something so stupid, while those below with red Solo cups don't seem to notice. I'm sure you were 2 of many. So are we. What I know is today I am here, and you are there, scared of heights when you weren't before. But you forgot that for a minute, so I can't scold. It's not that high. Go ahead and fucking jump. Let's see. I think I'll end with it's a sonnet, and it's like winter into spring maybe, but it's a sonnet in honor of Andrew Wyeth and his painting Airing Out is the name of the painting, and I'm a big fan of his work. We start in the off-white light. Our skin is smooth than diamond ice. It cracks through brittle seasons. They peel each painted layer year by year. Our still lives are a rain-blasted, half-open window. Our glass, hand-blown, we wipe our panes, rebrush, retouch the view, so we see through sooted space. We eat at tables set with faded fruit. We dust the corners, hide in the rafters. The wood is sky-soaked watercolor, an hourglass turned on its side. The sand, the dirt, we gaze to the base, but it's not an end at all. The other side of black is green and red. A spot of robin waits. Thank you.
Wow. Okay, let's unmute. A big round of applause for Sally Toner. Woo-hoo.
Yay, yay, yay.
Wow. Keep clapping. This is for both our features. Thank you,
Yes.
Valerie. Thank you, Sally. Wow.
Awesome.
Anybody's not here, none of the cool kids, man, they missed a great thing. But it will be available on a YouTube in a short time. Tony will get that together. And so thank you both. What a wonderful pair of features. Wow.
Can I ask Sally a question about one of her poems?
Yes.
The poem you read about, they didn't cover the mirrors when your grandmother died?
Yeah, that one.
One of the ones you read, yeah. Are you aware of the reason that people used to cover mirrors when people died? I am, which may added an extra dimension to it.
Yeah, you can share it. Yeah.
Well, it was because they thought that the mirrors would capture the soul of the dead person and the soul would never leave the house. And so it would haunt, the dead person would not only haunt the family, but they would never make it to heaven or wherever they were destined to go. So that was why they covered all the mirrors. And I wondered if you had that in your mind when you wrote that.
I did. Yeah. I mean, I didn't state it explicitly, but yeah.
It was cool. That was cool.
Thank you.
Very cool. Well, thank you both. And now we're going to move into our open mic portion. One poem each, please. I will give you the on deck person, baseball, but you'll be next, and then the reader. So on deck, we have Robert Dean, and please help welcome our first open mic reader, Larry McCoy.
Hi there. The sounds of Thanksgiving at our house. For the last few years, other family members have taken over cooking a Thanksgiving feast. We are thankful for that. My role is now limited to making at least 2 pies the day before and answering a slew of questions in our kitchen on Thanksgiving. Here are just a few of the annual questions I'm asked. Don't you have a bigger pan than that? Is it too early for a cocktail? Do you have a plunger? This is asked by the person who peels all sorts of vegetables over the sink but leaves the strainer on the top of the counter, not where it should be. Is that? You do know there are 12 of us, 10 of us drinkers, right? Is your blender always this difficult to get started? Are you sure that's all the ice there is? There's none in the freezer downstairs? Should you go to 7-Eleven and get some more? Don't you have a single knife that's sharp? You haven't opened the wine yet? No. What's wrong with you? Open at least 4 bottles of the red. Do you have a plunger in the upstairs bathroom? The handle on this one is shut. The meal, by the way, is always delicious. Happy Thanksgiving.
Always lovely. I love it. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Larry. So on deck, we have Teresa Archer. And next up, please welcome Robert Dean. You're muted. You're muted, Robert.
I thought I demuted, but
Yeah, we.
I missed it. Well, it's good to have another round of this program going. I missed it over the summer. This is a poem from an anthology that just came out. It's called the Word Fest Anthology 2022, and it's put out by the Waco Word Fest that happens every year in the summertime. I wasn't able to go this year, but they took something for the anthology. And this poem is called From Where I'm Standing. Oh, the anthology should say the anthology has a theme every year. This year it was Earth. From where I'm standing. God moves in the ash at my feet, a mirage of myself. I breathe deep, wonder why it took me 6 days of words, when I could have just snapped my fingers, big banged the whole damn thing into existence. The wind sucks thought from me, tosses singed confetti into Michelangelo's vault. Adam's finger not quite touches God. And we shall make man in our own image, I hear myself say from the high places, and we shall give him mastery. Around me, Yellowstone burns, Venice sinks. Words buzz in my head like bees in the carcass of Samson's ruptured lion. I crack my jaw wide as heaven, forfeit responsibility for this speaking to the wind. Over the land, a hush comes, water weeps upwards. I rub thumb and middle finger, no snap. The wind throws caution back at me. I pick up my rod and my staff. Sorrow, thorns and thistles, the sweat of my brow. Feed my sheep, I say, beating back the flames. The beginning is still beginning. I move upon the face of the waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. So on deck now we have Bernardo, and please now welcome Teresa Archer.
Hi. So this poem I'm going to read was inspired by Native American flute music. If you know that kind of music, you can have it running in your mind during the poem. Two women weaving. Atop a sea cliff at sunset, two women weave a circle in dry grass. Sleeves and skirts rustling like wings, east wind licking hair into fire. Half moon eyes closed against reckless wind and salt. They revolve together, slow as the Pleistocene, etching in sand their ceaseless circling. The last light flares. Sunfire illuminates brief faces that soon turn again into shadows. Wind shifts, sun descends on these women weaving their circle in dry grass.
Beautiful, Teresa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so on deck we have Bruce Grossberg, and now please help welcome Bernardo.
Good evening, everybody. I thought I mastered the muting, but I guess, every once in a while you go backwards. I want to say hello to my special friend, Sally Toner. I've gotten to know Sally in a very intimate poetry group, and that's all I have no words.
See you.
I was going to read a poem for you. It's an old poem. It says, "You are my favorite. You are my favorite season. You are summer." However, I realize it needs some editing. So I'm going to do another poem in honor of all of us called, since this is Oceanside, I'm going to read Ocean Sounds. And this also can apply to my friend. She returned with ocean sounds in her consciousness, doing so much more with so much less. Unconcerned and free of stress. Peaceful, pleasant, well refreshed. Marveling how it still lifts her, the soothing sound of heaven's whisper. In awe, she clings to how God kissed her. Ocean sounds. She returned with ocean sounds in her consciousness, gathered in a few days' rest, feeling calm, inspired, blessed, having breathed of heaven's breath, marveling what Yahweh gave her, an insight she could truly savor, a sweet reprieve perchance to save her. Ocean sounds. Thank you.
Beautiful. From Ocean Sounds to Oceanside. Thank you, Bernardo. Cool, thank you. So On deck is Ann Cohen. And now please welcome Bruce Grossberg.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Sally. Thank you, everyone. This is a poem called Cassius Clay, born October 19th, 1810. It's a poem by Bruce Grossberg, born October 19th, 1958. I am the greatest, the Lion of Whitehall. Lions run free, horses run free, all men should run free. People in my old Kentucky home howled. They voted me out of Congress. They burned down my printing press. Someone jumped me, tried to kill me. I cut off his nose. 6 Turner brothers circled me, tried to kill me. But after my Bowie knife sliced the first Turner brother to death, the other 5 turned tail and ran away. I'm still printing across the river in Cincinnati. You know, the best way to defend yourself is to keep a cannon inside your door. I almost had to use it against my own children. They objected to my new wife. I was 84, she was 15. I don't know where that's anyone else's business. My friend Abe Lincoln, taller than a cornstalk. People think that if the candidate can look over their heads, he can really see what's going on. And when Abe opened his mouth and said, a house divided against itself cannot stand, I could see how, if you keep the crowd just far enough away so they could not get a good look at how ugly he was, Abe could make a fine leader. I'd have made a better leader, but I faced a lot of resentment. It's not my fault if I'm right all the time. It's not my fault if you reap the whirlwind. I offered my services to lead the war effort even before there was a war. And after, Abe still would not let me do things my way. I guess I shouldn't have made all that fuss about how the Union could have 4.5 million more soldiers, more nurses, more farmers, more people to beat up on the South with if Abe would only free the slaves now. Abe finally came around to my way of thinking, sort of. And what kind of thank you did I get? My tremendous foresight leading to death threats everywhere I go? What did Abe do to have easy access to my good advice to help me get through the war safely? He sent me off to be the ambassador to Russia. But then Russia freed their serfs, and we bought Alaska off them. Success wherever I go. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Super. Okay, Abe. And moving on, then on deck is Dee Dee Spungen. And now please help welcome Ann Cohen.
A wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you to our features. Lots of things to think about and dream about this evening. This is called Pulaski. This is about a 3,000-year-old Native American ruin in Arizona. Whose fires burned here? Who tended these flames? Who sang to the children while they played games? What stories were told to the young by the old? Who listened to evening coyote calls? Who drew the petroglyphs on these red walls? What visions did the shamans see under the red cliffs of Pulaski? Where did the hunters and gatherers go? Did they succumb to enemy hands? These secrets we may never know. Did drought force them to seek other lands? Though our questions rise to cloudless Arizona skies, mysteries are buried with the dead, hidden in ancient cliff walls of red.
Super. Thank you, Ann. Now, Joe. I'm looking over your shoulder. Is Joe reading tonight?
Nope.
Okay, just checking. Just checking. Thank you, Ann. Okay, so on deck is Emiliano, and now please help welcome Dee Dee Spungen.
Thanks, Judy. Thank you for the evening. Valerie, Sally, thank you for the beauty. And the open mic has been fabulous. I figured I came across this very old little poem, and I said, well, what a great thing to read just before Thanksgiving. So it's simple, but let me share it with you. Emptying my pockets. You know those pockets full of miracles? They're from an old song sung by smiling philosophers, not found in musty books. Pockets like Peter's, full of fillings, not the kind your dentist offers, filling you delightfully with hope, with luck, with love. I stand in quiet reverie each end of every day, emptying my pockets, wrapping miracles in gratitude.
Beautiful. Thank you, Doreen.
And happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thank you. Okay, so on deck, we have Maggie Bloomfield, and now please welcome Emiliano. You have to unmute, my dear. There we go.
Valerie and Sally, thank you very much, as well as all the poets who are participating in tonight's reading. Good job. And the host is doing a fantastic job too. Endurance is the name of the poem. Often, our endeavors find the detriment in technology. Yet, there is a good analogy to overcome things with prudence, while a degree of endurance bites its tongue by using poetry. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Emiliano. Okay, so now on deck, we have Mark Toner. Please now welcome Maggie Bloomfield.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, everybody. Super, super features and wonderful open mic. The Horseshoe Crab poem inspired me to read this poem from my book, Sleepless Nights. It's called The Lability of Lobsters. Lobsters possess serotonin. Unlike the neurological spurts of joy that light up our human brains after a solid workout, the Ainsi lobster neurotransmitters propel aggression. Lobsters fight mano a mano, claw to claw, spindly limbs tensed for balance, carapaces colliding. They box and batter, and as in all battles, someone wins and someone loses. The winner struts through lobster land, triumphant as Ali after Liston. Antenna sparkle with electrical volts of joyful neurotransmittance. While loser lobster, serotonin quashed forever, retreats in shame. No proper parenting or validation will bring him back to the ring. He will bottom feed for the duration. Serotonin makes lobster meat tough. We love to eat the losers.
Woohoo, do that. Thank you, Maggie. Oh, and a round of applause for audience member Mark Toner, who will not be reading tonight, but thank you, Mark, for letting me know. And so, keep you on your feet. Salvatore Roteo is on deck. If Salvatore Roseo has gotten back to us, I think he has. And that would mean Ron Bramner, you're up at the open.
Well, I'm not reading tonight. I put it in the chat.
Okay, a round of applause for another audience member. Thank you, Ron, for being here. We're keeping everybody on their toes. Sasha, I see, already did leave. And so, on deck, we have Steph Niles. And up now we have Salvatore Roseo. Woo. We're not hearing you, Sal.
I tell you what, Judy, if you want to skip me for a minute, I'm going to switch to my computer.
No problem. No problem.
All right.
We'll have another reader come up. No problem. Okay. We are such ballerinas here. There is no problem with us being on the ready. So let's let Sal get set up. So on Jack, then we have T.A. Niles. And up now, please welcome Steph Niles.
Good evening, everybody. I have a little piece. It's called This Moment, which it wasn't a poem, it was a text. And then the text turned into a poem. This moment will forever be the most magical moment. This moment when we kissed like the sun kisses the moon. When your hand held mine, like the cloud holds the mountain ridge. When my heart melted into yours, like the sand melts into the ocean. And when I leave this planet and there's nothing more to say or be, I wish to float away in this feeling that I felt in this so magical moment. Thank you.
Gorgeous. Well, then you keep texting and it'll keep creating more poems. There we go. Thank you. Thank you, Steph. I'm so excited that you read.
Me too. Thank you, Judy.
I do private chats whenever she's in. You're gonna read, you're gonna read, you're gonna read. So here,
Yep.
Co-hosting and she read. Woohoo! Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Okay, so I'm gonna put Salvatore Roseo on deck. And now please help welcome the voice, T.A. Niles.
Well, well. Whew, I don't know if I can read listening to Steph read for the first time. That was pretty awesome for me. Anyway, both Sally and Valerie mentioned mirrors, so I disposed of what I was going to read, and I'm going to read Mirror Hugs. I'd like to reach into the mirror and give that guy a hug. I wonder if he knows that the geometry of the image staring back at me is all wrong, with novel angles jutting, curves now predominating, softness encroaching upon hardened memories of youthful vigor. He'd sworn to himself that he'd never be a skinny guy with a gut protruding. Another promise to himself broken. He stares back at me, his eyelids as heavy as his heart. They droop and fold almost as neatly as yesterday's laundry. The fire and twinkle they once guarded are dimmed and shaded, their heat and light mere embers now. He raises his hands and lifts the lazy lids with fingers that quiver more than he remembers. He is shaken by the realization. The once steely jaw is now usurped by jowl in a bloodless coup devised by a coalition of gravity and decades. If his chin was once bold, it now peeks timidly through spindly branches, white and wild, that have wrestled dark splendor to the ground. He no longer anticipates getting carded at the checkout line. Moles and freckles have spawned like rabbits, mountain cheekbones have succumbed to valleys. The smile that once puffed out its chest and gleamed with brilliant confidence now cowers behind discolored, reluctant lips that battle to hold their lines. Is that a wince he throws my way as our gazes meet in bald contemplation, in silent consolation? I think he'd like to reach out of the mirror and give me a hug. She walks up behind me and says, "You're as handsome as ever." I turn and give her a hug. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you for reading. Thank you, TA. Super. Okay, so on deck we have Vinny VJ Cologne. And now let's welcome Salvatore Roseo.
Hey, Judy, thanks.
Yay.
Thanks for toggling things.
No problem.
And that was brilliant, TA. It's been a while since I heard some TA. That was phenomenal. Oh man, I'm just stewing
Thanks,
in it.
Sal.
I wish I wasn't reading now so I could just stew in it a little more. But
Appreciate you, man.
yeah, you got it, brother. So I was trying to figure what to read, and I saw or a couple of poems that the features read just kept making me think of these different ones. So I just picked one that I don't think I've read in a few years. So let's try this one out. It's called Fall Night Camping, Quail Hill Scout Reservation. Unable to fall asleep, my eyes stare at the ceiling of the tent, the gray ashen smoke and the orange pulsing glow of embers from the campfire still lingering against my eyelids in the darkness of cool midnight. I tuck my head into the sleeping bag, still leery of any more wolf spiders creeping about with their 8 legs and their 8 eyes, looking to burrow a home or perhaps vibrate a dry leaf to draw another to its cause that by chance might happen by. The last one found crawling on the tent floor earlier, coaxed out of the tent and crushed into the grass under my heel to prevent its returning or any ambitions to climb the rainfly to resonate its purr. The patterned snoring from the nearest neighboring tent resounding through the chilled October air, musical notes sawing through the fall night as if it were a rain-dampened and brittle log. In the opposite corner, my 11-year-old son sleeps silent and still, a rock unmoving, barely noticeable under the pile of sleeping gear tossed over him, except for the random soft whistle of air passing through his nostrils. Occasionally laying on one side, then tossing to the other, resting to lay on my back in between to offset the discomfort of the cold, hard ground pushing at my back, penetrating through the layers of tent, foam cushion, and warm sleeper. I imagine hearing the lull of the earthworms turning beneath me, deep down in the damp dirt below, luring me to fall asleep, my heavy eyes taunted by the Sandman's sprinkled sway, caught under that sleep-inducing dust. Under my lids, the movement of my eyes not yet rapid, before even a shard of deep sleep could ensue. And I am soon and suddenly awoken to the still diminishing shadows within the dim of the dawn twilight's crawl, through the woods just beyond the tent, by the hooting of the owls on the safety of their tree branches, rousing murky morning to arise from its restful slumber. Thank you, guys. Appreciate the opportunity. Thanks, Judy.
Super, Salvatore. Thank you. Wow. Very cool. Except for those spiders, but okay, that's okay. Okay. And so on deck, okay, I'll read a poem. So then now we welcome Vinny VJ Cologne.
Okay. So I write a poem every day. Thank you. And this one is from yesterday. The prompt was write about looking down at yourself from someone else's perspective. So I think you'll be able to figure it out. It's called To Err is Human. Look at them upon the earth, getting born and giving birth, burying truth inside stats, arguing like dogs and cats. Vanity's their main concern, printing money just to burn, building walls and shopping malls, hanging up when hunger calls. What a silly race, what a sad planet, a wasteland of silicone and granite. They name rivers, mountains, and oceans, clear-cut forests to make hand lotions. They'll strip a mountain to make a new car, turn to the heavens and wish upon a star, an indelible rut their wagon wheels carve. They have plenty of food, yet their people still starve. No, this is not a place for us to settle. They've already used up their ore and metal. They had a utopia, and then they turned it sour when they gilded the calf and erected the tower. And a calf made of gold feeds only greed. They focused on want and forgot about need. Before we disembark, should we plant the seed? No, do not. The humans in haste will think it's a weed, rip it from the soil like everything else, or place it in a vase and put it on the shelf. We're sorry we left you. Now is not your time. To err is human, to forgive is divine. Thank you, everyone.
Woohoo, wow. Thank you, BJ. So I'm just gonna, I don't think I skipped anybody, but if there's any change of heart, somebody else I missed. Okay, so I have, okay, I have a poem I could read. I know Tony sometimes does and sometimes doesn't, so I'm gonna do the sometimes does. I'm gonna read from Imagistics, and this is actually the first pantoum I ever wrote. It's timely. Pumpkin pantoum. Rows of pumpkins in a field, not picked to be jack-o'-lanterns. Oval, obtuse, green around the stem, left behind on Halloween. Not picked to be jack-o'-lanterns, not chosen as the perfect ones, left behind on Halloween. These misfits line a field of green. Not chosen as the perfect ones, they live on to see November. These misfits line a field of green, flesh uncut, no evil grin. They live on to see November, oval, obtuse, green around the stem, flesh uncut, no evil grin, rows of pumpkins in a field. So now you can go and get them and make pumpkin pie for Thursday. See? I want to thank, we can unmute and make noise and do all sorts of stuff. Another round of applause, please, for our two features, for Valerie Griggs and for Sally Toner. Woohoo!
Absolutely.
That was fabulous.
Absolutely.
A round of applause for all of you and our audience members. You guys were great. This was fun. This was fun. We still miss Tony. Thank you, Tony. Well, thank you, Tony, and thank you, Oceanside Library, for giving us, you know, I like to say they're keeping us in poetry. So very cool. They keep up the tradition. First and third Mondays from now until June. And then in June, we move outside to the Oceanside Gazebo. And then hopefully September, October, back on Zoom again. But I do hope that two hopes. One, I hope you'll join us again on December 5th, when the two features are Evelyn Candell and Dan Brady. That's going to be whipping, hooting, wonderful reading as well. And my second hope, I hope you all have a very blessed, very gratifying Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Judy.
You
You too. Happy Thanksgiving.